Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this latest edition of Tales from Outer Space, where I take stories from across the internet and read them for your entertainment. This particular story is called Wood, written by In Yellow Clad. My name is Findry, a xenoanthropologist for the Commonwealth, a collection of alien nations united via alliances, but each governing themselves. There's no galactic president, no emperor, just a bunch of different people, all trying to make the best out of what the galaxy has to offer. And while we may be a collection of republics, democracies, and empires, we all get along fairly well. Of course, there are the odd few star nations out there that want no part of our band of oddballs, and they are typically left alone just as they leave us alone. Some feel as though we deserve to be conquered and enslaved. But there's always someone like that in the galaxy, and they're usually given a swift kick in the rear, as the humans would say, before they get too out of hand. Now, you didn't come here for a lecture on galactic politics. You came here because the subject of this paper is none other than humanity. Humans have been the subject of many debates, papers, and even cultural scandals. It's no secret by now that human tenacity and determination are outliers amongst the other species in the galaxy. That though they may be smaller than most, they exhibit a resilience unheard of in many, or that they can imbibe many poisons that simply make them act funny. You've heard or read it all before, which is why I decided that I wouldn't focus on any of that. For it's been done to death and back, beating a dead horse, as to say, though why anyone would do such a needlessly cruel thing is beyond me. Instead, I shall focus on something else that I believe has not really been touched on: mating habits. Naturally, such things tend to be private affairs, so if those reading this paper do not feel comfortable learning of such things about another species, then there is no shame in putting it down and walking away. For those of you who are curious to learn, I am pleased that you have stayed. Now, humanity, like many species out there, tends to gravitate towards members of their own species for mates. It's only natural, and it is generally a guarantee to ensure the continuation of the species. Whereas interspecies reproduction tends to come with all sorts of obstacles, compatible genitalia being the biggest among them. This has not really stopped humanity from at least attempting to copulate with just about every sapient species they came across. Generally, it ends with mild embarrassment as things simply don't work out, but it can also end rather poorly, with minor or severe injuries to either or both would-be partners. That said, there is always a human that takes one look at another being of different species and, please pardon the crassness of this, say, "Yeah, I could feck that." Over the course of my studies, I have attempted to discover the urge behind a human's desire to copulate with things are either not real, such as fictional or mythological monstrous beings, or with beings that are quite real and yet not a member of the human species. I can say definitely that I have no fucking clue. It doesn't make sense, it simply doesn't. Why is one human staunchly attracted to members of their own species, be they the same sex or not, and another wouldn't be caught dead with a human in their bed, but would willingly throw themselves into the bed pits of the Inkari brood warrior? It doesn't make sense, and to prove that to you, I'll provide an excerpt from an interview I conducted with one human in particular, who had not only managed to bed something so wildly inhuman, but also reproduced with them. For privacy's sake, their names have been altered. Dr. Findry, if you would be so kind as to state your name and species for the record, simple formality before the interview properly begins. Millie. My name is Millie, and my daughter's name is Sarah. Aliases, of course. I'm full human and Sarah is only half human. Dr. Findry nods as the autoscribe takes everything down. Dr. Findry, thank you. Now let's begin. What prompted you to seek a mate outside of your own species? Millie. Straight to it, huh? Well, Back when I was younger, I tested the waters with my own species, just to see how things were and what to expect. Honestly, it didn't impress me that much, though I have a few friends who wouldn't dream of doing what I've done. Not because they're xenophobes or anything. The idea of it just doesn't tickle their fancy. Dr. Findry, I see, and I now wonder why exactly you felt compelled to do this. Millie, I'm not really sure. I'd say because it's exciting. If you're human, you know what to expect from other humans. There's only so much that you can do with a body like ours. But with extraterrestrials, the sky's the limit, really. Dr. Findry, so then you'd say that it was accurate to describe your feelings about human-on-human intimacy and reproduction to be boring. Millie takes some time to think on it before shrugging and nodding. Yeah, pretty much. Dr. Findry, fascinating. And the father, what species was he? Millie, I've never actually asked. Dr. Findry, shame. And I assume that he's no longer with us, since I see you're wearing what you humans call a wedding ring around your neck. Millie, oh, no, he's still around. Dr. Findry seems surprised by this, taking a moment to observe the modest apartment around them and noting the lack of family pictures that feature the father. In fact, she notes there are none, just pictures of Millie and Sarah. Dr. Findry, I assume then that he's not a particularly involved father? Millie, oh, on the contrary, he's actually fairly involved. It's, complicated, though. Dr. Findry, how so? Millie, well, you see, he's here and not here. He's kind of everywhere, actually, but also nowhere. Like I said, it's complicated. Dr. Findry, I'm afraid I don't understand. How can you be here and yet not at all the same time? Millie, well, he's a being that exists partially outside our reality and... Millie is suddenly distracted and promptly leaps to her feet with a shrill shriek, pointing at something just outside of Dr. Findry's field of view. Dr. Findry looks to see what is causing the commotion and finds herself staring at what humans call a spider. It is about the size of Millie's clenched fist. The spider remains motionless, no doubt sensing that it has been spotted. Perhaps a defensive mechanism. Millie, sweetie, kill it, please. Dr. Findry appears confused as to why Millie just called her sweetie, but does raise her clipboard to squash the spider. Such action is unnecessary, however. The room darkens, and sound like grinding tectonic plates fills the small space. Whispers echo from the ventilation system. Buildings become towers of flesh and bone. Great gaping maws gnash and feast on the carrion flocks that fill the sky. Hell itself has come to this world, seeking to fill the minds of mortals with madness and despair. The room itself is suddenly home to a great gash in reality, a screeching, weeping fissure of unreality that threatens to destroy all life itself, to plunge the universe into unending chaos and devastation. From it emerges a tendril, a thing of mottled flesh and jagged bone. It twists through the air, which is now fetid, dank, and with smell of death and stagnation. An ancient darkness has risen, and all shall bow in reverence and fear. Hark! For he has come. Give praise to Neza, devourer of universes. The tendril promptly squashes the spider before dragging its broken corpse into whatever hellish dimension the tendril came from. The world itself returns immediately to normal as the tendril vanishes with its arachnid meal, leaving the universe alone once more. Dr. Findry is left aghast, unable to properly comprehend what she just witnessed, while Millie is far more collected, a look of relief washing over her as she settles back down onto her seat. Millie, sorry about that. I have extreme arachnophobia. Anyways, that's my husband. He's a really sweet guy. Don't let these looks fool you. Dr. Findry, what? How? Millie, oh yeah, sorry. That tends to happen when you see him and his species for the first time. It should pass in a moment. Just try to remember to breathe steadily and slowly, okay? Dr. Findry slowly collects herself, doing as Millie instructed and slowing her breathing to a more manageable pace. Dr. Findry, he seems, nice? Yes, nice seems to be accurate. I just have to ask before I cut this interview short so that I can go and lay down, but, how did you two meet in the first place? Millie, that's a funny story, actually. See, I was doing a long-haul solo flight. My ship could only house me and maybe a few drones to keep the cargo I hauled in order. I got attacked by pirates and driven into an uncharted space, where I encountered one of these tears in reality, like you just saw. I got to witness him eat a planet, and when he noticed me, I got a real good look at him. In that moment, I thought that he was just the most handsome fella I'd ever seen, and well, what came out of my mouth is what got him to not eat me. Dr. Findry, and, what was it that you said that got him to spare your life? Millie grins broadly. Dr. Findry notes that it would be best described as a shit-eating grin. Millie would. As you can see, there is absolutely no rhyme or reason behind what humans can and will attempt to copulate with. It is astounding the lengths that they'll go through just to even try, and Millie's story is one of the crazier ones. Needless to say, human tastes in sexual partners are not to be underestimated. They can, will, or attempt to have sex with just about anything that can consent to it. Honestly, they're insane, and let this paper be proof of that, and also my resignation letter, because I simply cannot top this. The rest of my studies will be published as well, of course. Thank you, and goodbye. I quit. End of story. I'd quickly like to thank the T5 peeps: Cold War Boomerwaffen, Severin Cerberus, Bushmaster 177, Henry the Red, Caspar Arnholtz, Cold War Boomerwaffen, Elijah Silvercross, Dragzoon WRE, and Severin Cerberus. Thank you very much.